everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica and I make videos all about making and selling candles. And in today's video, it's going to be kind of a part 2 from my video that I posted a couple days ago. If you guys have not seen that video, I will link a card up right here so you guys can go check out that video. It's basically just me explaining why I don't follow the formula of 1 ounce of fragrance oil to 1 pound of wax and the reasons behind that. In today's video, I will be explaining further my method of coming up with how I calculate how much fragrance oil and how much wax for one of my candles. That way I don't have any leftover wax and I can duplicate those numbers for however many candles I want to make and make sure that I am getting exactly the percentage that I want of fragrance oil and exactly the amount of weight and wax that will go up to my fill line. We're just going to be jumping right into this video. I'm going to be going over some basic information for you guys to know to start. I'm also going to be going over some of the calculations that you may already be doing and then explaining why that might not be the best way to get the amount of wax and the correct percentage of fragrance oil. And then I'm going to go into my formulas and give you guys some examples. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I went through yesterday and I spent a couple of hours trying to figure out this formula for you guys and how I was going to print this out and make it as easy to understand as possible. So I printed these out on pieces of paper and we're just going to go over these all together. So the first thing that you need to know is that when you are doing your measurements for fragrance oil and wax, you need to make sure that all of the measurements are in weight. So you don't want to do volume, you always want to do weight. So make sure that you get a scale. You can use a regular shipping scale for heavier items such as when you're weighing the wax, but when you're weighing the fragrance oil, I highly recommend that you get something smaller like a gram scale. I use a pocket scale and it just is a lot more detailed and it goes down to the decimal point of each gram. So I highly recommend that you get something like that to measure out your fragrance oil. All calculations should be based on the actual wax weight that can fit inside of the jar, not the volume of the jar. So for instance, if you have a 9 ounce straight sided jar, but it can hold 7 ounces in weight of wax up to that fill line, then you're gonna be doing all of your calculations on a 7 ounce candle. So the first thing that I see a lot of people doing with their calculations is this one right over here on the left. So if you have an 8 ounce candle and you're trying to find 10%, you'll multiply that by 0.10 and that will give you 0.8. So then you'll do 0.8 ounces of fragrance oil and then 8 ounces of wax. So if you add those together though, that will give you a total weight of 8.8 ounces. So even though 0.8 divided by 8 is 10%, there's still going to be too much liquid wax. So you're going to have an overage of wax and you're going to have too much for that container. Another way that I see people do is they will subtract 8 minus 10%, which gives you 7.2 ounces of wax, and then they'll add 0.8 ounces of fragrance oil, and that gives you the same total weight of liquid fragrance oil and wax together. But the only thing about that is that if you then divide 0.8 by 7.2, it gives you now 11%. So you're no longer at that 10% that you're looking for. You're now using too much fragrance oil and you have a higher fragrance oil load. So even if you think you're using 10%, you're now using 11%. Because when you think about it, it's the ratio of the fragrance oil to the wax, not to the total amount, because the total amount is already including the fragrance oil. So you can't do the ratio of the fragrance oil to something that already has the fragrance oil in it. You have to do it just based on the wax weight. So I just wanted to go over this real fast just to show you guys my mentality of why I feel like those are incorrect, and then I'm gonna show you guys what I do. Okay, first step is you have to determine the fragrance oil load that you want to have. So 8%, 9%, 10%, whatever you want to have, determine that for the formula. Then you have to find out the weight that your jar can hold. So again, like the other example, a 9 ounce straight sided jar can hold 7 ounces of wax. You will be doing all the calculations in 7 ounces. So you have to make sure that you know these things prior to doing this formula. All right guys, welcome to math class. I had no idea that this is what my path in life would take me to of teaching math, but hey, I really enjoy it and I actually really liked coming up with this formula because I think that once I explain it, it way will be easy for you guys to plug in everything. So we're gonna go over the formula and then go over the examples. So the formula that I came up with is A divided by B should equal the fragrance load percentage, and A plus B should equal the net candle weight. Now in this formula, even though I didn't write it on here, A is equal to the amount of fragrance oil weight you will be using per candle, and B is equal to the amount of wax weight you will be using per candle. So I should have probably put this on here, but you'll know through the examples, just kind of getting the feel for everything. So I'm gonna jump right into the examples right now. All right, example number 1. So we're gonna use the same example we've been talking about in this whole video. So you have a 9-ounce jar that holds 7 ounces of net weight, and you want to use 10% fragrance oil. So in these examples, I will be converting everything to grams because that is how I personally do it, and I think it's way easier. So you're gonna convert it to grams for easier numbers. So 7 ounces is the same thing as 198 grams. So we're gonna use 198 grams for this example, but just know that that's the same thing as 7 ounces. So I put the formula back over here just so we could compare it. So the formula, A divided by B equals fragrance oil percentage. So at this stage, you're able to plug in 2 numbers. So you're able to plug in what they both equal to. So A divided by B should equal 10%, and A plus B should equal 198. So we're trying to find 2 numbers that are the same that can be plugged into both of those formulas that will come out with those numbers. So I call this the trial and error period because I was not able to find an exact perfect equation, but I was able to give you guys some guidelines on how to get to the number. So what you would do first is whatever percentage that you want to have, you would subtract that percentage from your total weight. So I did 198 minus 10%, and that gave me 178. So we're gonna try to find the difference between those 2 numbers. So we're gonna do 198 minus 178, and that gives us 20. So 20 plus 178 equals 198. So we know that those are 2 numbers that will be plugged into this equation to get 198. But what we have to figure out is, will it match these? So if we plug in 20 right here and 178 right here, will it give us 10%? And I did the equation and it gives us 11.2%. Okay, so what we have to do is slowly take down the amount of fragrance oil. So take down the lower number down by 1, but then add it to the wax weight. So we always want to make sure that we're going to have the total weight of 198. We want to slowly take it down. So I took it down to 19 and 179. So that's taking that down by 1 and adding 1 to the 178. So that gave us 10.6%. So I said, okay, I'll take it down one more time. So I did 18 and I divided that by 180. So adding 1 there, taking 1 down there, and that gave us 10%. So then you're able to plug in right down at the bottom. So you're able to plug in 18 divided by 180, that's 10%, and 18 plus 180 is equal to 198. So there's only one correct answer here. You just have to do 2 different equations and make sure that you're able to get the right answer that equals what you had plugged into your equation. And I do this all on the calculator, you guys. I am not trying to do long math, long division, anything. I'm just in there. I'm just on my calculator. 19 divided by 179, 10.6. Okay, 18 divided by 180. And you can have a pen and paper next to you on which ones you want to check, but it's just a matter of going on your calculator and trying to figure it out. Example number 2. You have a 12-ounce jar that holds 10 ounces of net weight of wax. You want to do 8% fragrance oil this time. So we're gonna convert it to grams for easier numbers. So again, we're doing 10 ounces and not 12 ounces. So 10 ounces is the same thing as 283 grams. So again, with the formula, we know what we can plug in first. So we're going to plug it into these areas right here. So we're able to, right here, fragrance oil percentage, 8%. Net candle weight, 283, and we're just trying to find these numbers. Trial and error period. So we are going to start off again with doing 283, but we're gonna subtract 8%. So whatever that amount is, we're gonna subtract that first to give us a good estimate on where to get started. So that gives us 260, and we are going to subtract 260 from 283, that gives us 23. So now we know that 23 plus 260 gives us 283. So that would match right here, but we need to make sure that it equals 8%. So I divided 23 by 260, and that gives us 8.8%. So that's not right. So then what I did was the same thing I did in the other one. And you're just trying to take down the fragrance oil and add it to the wax. So 22 divided by 261 gives us 8.4%. And then I took it down even further. 21 divided by 262 gives us 8%. So then I plugged in the numbers. 21 divided by 262 is 8%. And adding them together gives us 283. So we know that this is going to be the right equation. It's going to be a ratio of 8% fragrance oil to wax, but it's also going to give us the total weight needed to fill up our 10-ounce jar. Example number 3, we're taking the jars up a little bit more. So we're gonna say the 16-ounce jar holds 14 ounces net weight of wax. And we're gonna do 11% fragrance oil. So you're gonna convert it to grams for easier numbers. So 14 is equal to 397 grams. One thing I wanted to mention is that if you guys are wondering how I convert that to grams, literally Google G to OZ and it'll give you the converter. So grams to ounces, just type in 14 under ounces, it'll give you the grams. And that's exactly how I do everything. Google, calculators. I don't try to figure this all out myself. I just go online, do the conversion between ounces to grams, and you're good to go. So on here, the formula, again, we're able to just plug in the numbers. So 11% right there, and then 397 right there. And then the trial and error period, this one had a little bit more trial and error. So this one, you start with 397, you subtract that 11%, that gives you 353. You subtract the 353 from 393, and that gives you 44. So we know that 44 and 353 equals 397, but we need to figure out if that gives us that 11%. So I divided 44 by 353, that gives you 12.5%, so that's not right. So I was able to take it down. So take down that number, add it to that number. So 43, 354, that gives us 12.1%. And I did it all the way down. So you're able to subtract that, add to that. Subtract 1, add 1. And it just takes you down a little by little. So 11.8, 11.5, 11.2, and then 10.9. So at this point you can choose, okay, well actually I don't mind if it's 11.2%, or I'd rather do 10.9%. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to picking these, because these will all give you the correct amount if you're okay with that percentage. So if you want to do 11.2% fragrance oil, then you can do 40 grams of fragrance oil to 357 grams of wax, and that will give you the total weight of 397, but it will give you that 11.2%. In this example, I just stuck with the 10.9% because it was closer to 11 ounces, and did 39 divided by 358, and that's 10.9%, and then 39 plus 358 is 397. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, why can't I just do exactly 11%? You can, I just don't like to do decimals. That's why for my candles, I do 10.5% and 10.2% for some of my candles, because I'm able to stick with whole numbers. I don't want to do 39.4 and then 357.6 to get maybe exactly 10 or maybe exactly 11%. So I just like to stick with whole numbers, and if I have to choose between 11.2% and 10.9, but I get to keep whole numbers, that's good for me. And that's another reason why I don't like to use ounces, because if we try to convert this to ounces, I mean, you'd probably be getting like 0.7394 ounces, and it gets so confusing. That's why I like the whole numbers, and that's why I like the ability to choose between these percentages, knowing that this is correct. So that is today's video. I am just praying and hoping that this makes sense for you guys and that I explained it right, because that is really the goal here. I want to be able to teach you guys how to do it so that you are, one, not lost, and two, not waiting on me to give you the answer, because I'm not able to get back to everybody in a timely manner or even get back to everybody at all, although I do very much try to get back to everybody within a good amount of time. But moving forward in the future, I don't know how many people are gonna try to reach out. So I'd rather just make a video on exactly some examples and showing you guys the numbers that I do and how to plug it in. And I spent so much time trying to type this up for you guys. I think I spent 3 hours yesterday. I don't know, whatever it was, but it was kind of fun, to be honest. And it's kind of fun to teach this. And I would have never thought that I would have been teaching like a math lesson. But fun fact, I actually want to be an English teacher when I was in school, but that never happened. So I like what I'm doing now more than that. And I still get to teach, which is really cool. But yeah. My mouth is really dry. I'm talking a lot. But anyways, guys, I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Please, please, please let me know if you guys, one, understood this, if it made sense to you guys, and two, if you still have further questions or if you're still not too sure, please reach out to me. I really don't mind helping you guys. I just thought that creating this video might give you a little bit more of an explanation so you're able to figure it out yourself. And trust me, you guys, when you're able to do something yourself, it makes a world of difference than trying to rely on somebody else to give you the answer. So just try to give yourself some time to figure it out and you will understand it. So anyways, that is today's video. I can't wait to edit this and get this up for you guys today. And if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at MemoryBoxCandleCo. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.